Hi, welcome to General Psychology or Psych 2012 at Polk State College. And this particular course is being offered during the second 6 week or short session of the summer. So basically, we're packing in an entire semester into 6 weeks. But before you think, oh my God, what have I bitten off? Do think in terms of the fact that in 6 weeks, you will have earned the 3 college credits for this course that it would ordinarily take someone going the route of the traditional semester format 16 weeks to have done. So that's that's the upside. That's the plus side. So what I want to do is to first of all give you a quick introduction of the course, of your professor. Um, as I may or may not have mentioned, my name is Dan Hazel, and I'll be your professor uh, and your mentor as we go through these 6 weeks. And I do want to say right off the bat that I do want you to feel free to get in touch with me to ask any questions or express any concerns you might have as you undertake the assignments within this course. I would like to consider myself an accessible professor. Okay, so after the introduction, I want to move into Canvas to sort of show you the way you navigate your way around Canvas and to get the most out of the course and be able to finish the course successfully, hopefully with an A, right? And then after that, we will do a quick review of the syllabus. I'm not going to go through the syllabus paragraph by paragraph. For one thing, I think it's between 15 and 17 pages long. You can read. So I'm just going to highlight some of the things that I want you to really focus in on that would be important. And then we'll kind of get you set up for the first week's worth of assignments. Okay, so a general psychology course is sometimes referred to on the college level as a survey course. So essentially, what we are doing is taking a look with each of the 15 chapters that we cover in 16 weeks. We take a look at 15 chapters which examine various facets, components, theories, and so forth in a wide variety of sub-disciplines within the discipline of psychology. For example, you may encounter information about sports psychology, positive psychology, humanistic psychology, behavioral psychology, and that's just the beginning. I do want you to sort of detach yourself from the idea of Freudian psychology because much of Freud's theories, and I'm using theory loosely in relation to Freud. Oh, don't get me wrong. If it were not for Freud, we wouldn't be where we are now in psychology. But a lot of some of Freud's theories, his ideas, and his concepts uh, actually came from his imagination, and he had a very good imagination. He had a good psychological mind, right? Which is what I want you to kind of develop as we go through the course, a good head for psychology. But he really didn't do research. I mean, this was at the beginning of psychology as a social science anyway, and he was kind of the guru of psychology, and so what he said sort of went until there were some other folks who expressed interest and developed interest and expertise in psychology and began to take issue with some of the things he came up with. So do keep in mind that even though we will explore Freudian psychology or psychoanalysis, that he is not considered the litmus test of psychology today in the 21st century. Okay, so next, I just want to give you a very quick overview without getting bogged in, because this isn't about me, it's about you as a student. So essentially, I didn't start out with my post-secondary education with an interest in psychology. Well, I better take that back. I was interested in psychology, but it was from the perspective of critical theory or literary criticism, because my initial major in undergraduate school was English. And so I taught for a little less than 15 years on the high school level in the public school system. And and after a while, I burned out with that particular profession. I had worked on my master's degree, got a master's degree in psychology with a concentration on adolescent behavior disorders before I went and pursued my doctorate degree in psychology. And so, with that doctorate degree, I did have an opportunity to work from a clinical perspective. In fact, I worked as a therapist at a psychiatric hospital for almost 6 years back in the 1980s. I also worked in the early 2000s at a neuropsychology lab, and where we dealt with people who had issues related to traumatic brain injury, strokes, dementia, Alzheimer's as a case in point as far as dementia is concerned, and other things as well. Now, two things that if you are considering going into psychology, particularly psychotherapy, which is different from psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis is what Freud practiced. Psychotherapy just refers to talk therapy. If you are interested in therapy, and after getting a degree in psychology, there is something you should consider. There are two particular movements in psychology in terms of the way we approach treating patients at this point. One of them is multiculturalism. Essentially, that particular approach says, if you don't meet your patient or your client where that client is in terms of being respectful of and knowledgeable of that individual's identity, whether it is a nationality, a racial, ethnic identity, sexual orientation, gender identity, whatever, then you're not going to be real effective in the therapy room. You're not going to be able to establish that bond, right, that we call the therapeutic alliance in psychology. The other particular movement in psychology is this one toward neuroscience. Of course, neuroscience is going on in biology. Neuroscience is basically the science of neurons, the brain, spinal column, and so forth, and how signals or messages are sent from the brain to other parts of the body and from other parts of the body to the brain, and how these things interface. Well, as we become more and more sophisticated and have more and more sophisticated technical devices in the field of medicine, then what we discover is that we know more and more about the brain and what happens to it when you're experiencing certain emotions, when you're experiencing certain cognitions, when you're memorizing as opposed to truly learning something, right? So we can apply some of that. So if you're really skittish about biology, do keep in mind that I think more and more courses as you go through a program in psychology will focus a bit more on brain science than it used to. With that said, you've seen me long enough, okay? I'm an old fart, and so there's nothing great to look at while I'm here in the middle of the screen. So I'm going to move myself out of the way and go on to Canvas and take a look at how I've set up the course for you. So give me just about 10 seconds. Okay, so you see in front of you now the home page. The home page looks a lot like the modules page. It's the same page, except on the home page over here to the right, you will notice that you'll have a little bit of a calendar over here that will show you what's due this week. So that's about the only difference between those two pages. Do keep in mind too that each one of these babies that are listed here, these are links. So you click on these links to go to the places you need to go in order to complete the assignment. The very first assignment I want you to do, besides watching this video and maybe looking at the syllabus, is Burning Question Chapter 1. Because you do need to write your responses to most burning questions, not 100% of them, but about 90% of them. You do need to include two different types of citation in your burning question responses when they are narrative, and that is the in-text citation and the reference citation. You don't have to remember all that other stuff about APA style, but you do need to know how to do this, because you will lose a point every time you do not use a citation in those burning questions unless I note in the assignment itself that you're exempt from it. Then you will notice Chapter 1 quiz. When you click that, you can immediately go on into the Launchpad Chapter 1, right? And let me pause for just a minute to give those of you who are not strong or fast readers a little bit of a hint. Now, you don't get but one chance to do the quizzes and the tests and the final exam in this course. That's it. But the thing about it, with the quizzes, okay, the quizzes, this is not true of the test, but with the quizzes, there is no time limit. So let's say, okay, I have an hour, I think I want to start on this quiz. So you can go on in to the quiz, just make sure you save your responses on the ones you do. Say there are 20 of them all together, say you're able to get 7 of them done, save it, and then go back when you have more time to complete a few more. And another thing to keep in mind is there is nothing that you do in this course that is not open book. So use that textbook. Use that textbook. It's at your disposal, and I'll show you how to get access to that textbook shortly. Then on Launchpad, which I mentioned a moment ago with the Chapter 1 quiz, that's part of your textbook actually, the assessment part of it, there's a video activity. There are video activities related to each chapter. So you have 4 of them related to Chapter 1. So you go here, you'll watch a short video. They usually range from about 3 minutes to 12 max. So you watch that, and then there's a little quiz that will pop up for you to complete after you listen to the video. They'll watch the video and listen to what they're saying, right? So that's only worth 5 points. Now, if you lose a couple of points from now and then, it's no big deal. Now, if you lose a lot of them, it's a big deal. But, you know, nobody is going to get 100% on these video activities. But the thing to keep in mind is that I assign a lot more video activities than the maximum point status is. Now, that's a little misleading what I said, because you can earn 150 points is considered a perfect score for doing the video activities. But the thing about it, you can lose up to about 40 points on video activities and still get that 150 toward your 1,000 points that would get you a perfect score of 100 in the course. So don't freak out about these. Burning question 2 and burning question 3. You'll notice in each module I sort of kick things off with the burning question for each chapter, and then immediately underneath that is the quiz related to that chapter, and then the video activities. All right, there's nothing to say that you have to follow this order. In fact, I have had students who'll go and it's like, okay, week 1 I want to get all those video activities, and then the next thing I know, they spent several hours doing the video activities and have gotten that all done like within the first couple of days of the week, right? That we're live on a particular module. Same thing with when we get to a major test, like Major Test 1, which will cover the first 4 chapters of the textbook. It goes to Launchpad 2. Now, the thing to keep in mind about major test, all major tests, because there are 4 of them in a final exam, is that the major test does have a time limit. 3 hours. That's a lot of time. Most people don't take 3 hours, because a lot of stuff that you see on the major test, you've already been tested on the quiz for the chapter. So hopefully you'll find this no big deal. I will say this, though, that the first major test tends to be the one where students score a little bit lower than the rest of them, because you're just scoping me or scoping my testing style out at that point in time. So you say, oh, I see how the old dude does it, and so when you see them in other modules, it won't be quite as intimidating. So despite the fact that you have 3 hours to finish a major test, do keep in mind you again can save answers if you don't finish the test in one sitting. Save it and then go back later on. Do keep in mind, though, say you spend an hour on it the first session, you have 2 hours left, because Launchpad will continue to tick off the moments, right? So you're still relegated to a total of 3 hours no matter how many sessions you go in. Okay, so all of this, it follows the same kind of format. The only thing that's a little bit different is that during the last week of class, you have a major test 4 to do, and also the final exam. So that's 160 questions altogether that you are dealing with. All right, so make sure you're budgeting your time. So you have about a week in order to do that. Also notice at the very bottom of the modules page or the home page that I have listed PowerPoints. I'm never going to force you to watch those. In all honesty, and I don't mean to sound callous or uncaring, because I do care about psychology and I care about my students, but I don't care whether you watch these or not. I would give it a try the first time to see if it helps out. I did get feedback. I have gotten feedback from students in the past that by looking at my PowerPoints, even though you don't have the benefit of any kind of narration or discussion when they're being shown, as in my face-to-face class, that they did find some leads in terms of how to answer questions correctly. So don't discount them because they're totally optional. So use those at your pleasure. Okay, so let's see now. How do you get your textbook? You don't need to go to the bookstore. The bookstore has come to you. And what do I mean by that? Your textbook is already going to show up when you click on what's called Macmillan Learning. This is like the most important thing I'm telling you about in this particular video. Go to Macmillan Learning. All right. Now, when I click on Macmillan Learning, you're going to see a page that's pretty fleshed out. Yours won't be quite as fleshed out as mine. I've already registered and all that good stuff as the professor. So when you click on Macmillan Learning, then you will see this word here in red and black, Launchpad. Okay. I don't know that ebook shows up yet, and a lot of this other stuff is only faculty only. But Launchpad is where you need to go. So when you click on Launchpad, I'm going to go into your course section on Launchpad, right? When I go there, it is going to immediately go to Launchpad. I won't have to register, right? You may not either, I'll be honest with you. I haven't seen students actually do this before because a couple of years ago, the bookstore made it so that once you enroll in my class, you're already signed up to have access to it, right? So you have all these things here, right? All the assignments are there. You'll be taken directly to it if you follow the links on the modules, but you have to do this first. Do this before you do anything else related to Launchpad and the textbook. Now, notice here, e-textbook, that's your textbook. So you can read your chapters, right? And reading chapters. Some people who are not real strong readers are going to like, this is going to take me forever because you're covering, Professor Hazel, you're covering 3 chapters in a week. Now, I don't ask you to memorize anything since it's all open book. Here's something you can do. This is a little bit of an honest way of cheating the system a bit. Because my quizzes cover all of the concepts and theories within a given chapter, if you open the quiz up while you're in one browser window and then open the textbook up in the other browser window, why not search for the section of the book that would help you answer the question? Now the questions I ask you are not going to say, the study of human behavior is blank. They're not that simple. You have to do a little application. But students seem to get the hang of it pretty quickly. When I recorded this, I'm at the tail end of the first 6 weeks course, and I'll tell you, the majority of my students have A averages. Okay, so it's not an overwhelming type of thing to master. Okay, so that's one shortcut that you can take. I don't know if it's a shortcut, but it kind of does kill 2 birds with 1 stone, because you're looking at the quiz and reading the chapter all at once. You may not read every word, but you're going to read the important sections because that's what I'm focusing in on the quiz. Okay, so you'll have a grade book there so you can keep track of what your scores are every time you do an assignment over here. Okay, so let's get back over here. I think you'll be able to access the textbook here. Your textbook is not free. I do need to make that clear. You will be billed for the textbook. I think that bill shows up in Passport, but it's usually a week or 2 after the session begins. So if you have a financial aid package for the summer, and there's residual money in your financial aid package, then you will be able to authorize the bookstore to just take that money, which I think is around $55 for access to Launchpad and the e-textbook, you'll be able to authorize their taking that $55 out of your financial aid package before any residual is left to you and loaded on whatever the college is doing now to give you any overage that you have, right? So there's one way to do it. Let's say you are a self-pay or you've gotten your funding some other way rather than going through traditional financial aid. If that's the case, then you'll need to pay the bill when it comes in on Passport, right? But the book this is the we're trusting you to go in and take care of that bill once it comes in, but from the very beginning you have access to it. Okay, so you have a grade book here on the on Launchpad. Yours is just going to have your grades, obviously. Of course, I have all the students who are enrolled in my class listed here. Then let's see, what else do I need to point out to you? Okay, then there's also announcements. Announcements, okay, I have one announcement up now, an announcement that has this video link will be up there shortly. In fact, you're probably watching the video now by having followed the link to YouTube from this page. But announcements, you may receive announcements alerts from time to time when the college asks me to provide information to you, or if there's something pertinent to the course. Okay, so let's see. Then finally we go to the syllabus. Now, this isn't the syllabus. This is just a summary of assignments that must be turned in week to week, right? So I usually like to use the preview. Many of my students like to download the syllabus and either print it out and put it in a notebook or just have it on their desktop so they can just open up the PDF file of it. It doesn't matter to me. It's your preference, actually. So let's hit the highlights here. This link right here that you can follow from the preview of the syllabus, you click that, that just goes to our catalog, our college catalog, to Psych 2012, and it tells you what the objectives are for your having completed this course. All right, so this is a chart that tells you, that it's online, where my office is kind of a moot point at this point, because I will tell you now, my office, I will not be keeping office hours during the summer on campus. My office hours will need to be negotiated between you and me via Zoom, or you can text me. There are a number of ways you can get in touch, and we can talk by phone. Okay, so, and the other thing too, I'll go ahead and disclose this to you. This is kind of my swan song because I retire in August. Okay, so that's information that's probably pretty useful for you, including my telephone number, the mobile. If you call and I don't answer, please make sure you leave your name and identify yourself as a student in one of my courses. And if you text me, at least the very first text you send me, please identify your name before you launch into whatever the issue is that you need to discuss with me. All right, so here we go. So you can read the introduction, but there are two terms that introductory psychology courses do not go into, and it really ticks me off, to be honest with you. And that is nomothetic and idiographic. We don't work. We're a science. We're social science. We're not a hard science like chemistry or physics or biology. We experiment too. We do studies, we do research, just like those scientists do. But we have to worry a lot about two different qualities of research in social science, and those are nomothetic and idiographic. What do we mean by that? Okay, the nomothetic nature of social science research means that what are we looking for? Let's say we're studying aggression as it's manifested between males and females, if we adhere to that binary system, right? So we've got biological males and females. Okay, that leaves out intersex individuals and so forth, but these are the two groups we're looking at. How do they express aggression, right? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look for generalizations. You've probably heard generalizing about people. That's really not a good idea. It can lead to good things as well as bad things, right? It can be a stepping stone toward racism or ethnocentrism, right? So no pathetic, but we do need to get a starting point. The majority of males or the majority of females express aggression in this way. For example, when I teach face to face, I will often ask, how many of you who are females follow what studies have indicated in psychology about females' expression of aggression? How many of you will spread rumors about people, or you just chew them out, or you'll say nasty things about them on social media? How many of you do that? Okay, and so a lot of the female students will raise their hands, and then of course I will ask the males. Okay, males on the other hand have been shown to be more likely to be physical in demonstrating aggression. A fist through the wall, or a fist in someone's face for that matter. Tearing something up, throwing something across the room. How many of you express your aggression that way, those of you who identify as male? Most of the hands go up, or a lot of them, right? And then I go, there were about 3 of you females and 2 males whose hands did not go up when I asked this. Why not? And then a guy may raise his hand and say, well, wait a minute, my parents taught me from really early on in my upbringing that violence was wrong. And so that was discouraged from the very beginning. So I was told, talk things over when you have a conflict. So no, I don't generally resort to violence. The 3 women who had not raised their hands said, "Nah, I don't have time for that crap. Spreading gossip. I don't do that stuff. I go immediately for the jugular. And if I have to use my fist, I will." So what are we saying? We're not notice we didn't discount that very small group of people. We probed into what's going on. Why are you not behaving like the generalizations we just made? That's the idiographic nature of research. Idiographic, individual. Both of those words start with I. And those 5 individuals, 2 males, 3 females, would be called outliers if we were turning in a research project. And in green, a nice summary, we can never say that a certain psychological characteristic applies to everyone within a group, but that a characteristic generally applies to most. This distinction is extremely important when you're dealing. Okay, so that's probably the second most important point. So you understand how we do how we do research. Okay, then there's some examples of things you find in the textbook, what you can expect to see, the outcomes there. Here's the textbook. Also notice this is on page 4 in your syllabus, that you're going to have to use your textbook cited as a source from time to time in BQs. There it is. Hey, go ahead. You're welcome. Cheat. Copy this and put it on the text field when you're doing your burning questions when you need to cite Pomerantz, right? Okay. Let's see. What else do we have here? Late work is not generally accepted unless there's a good reason for it. I would like for you to seriously consider not waiting to the weekend to get started with the work, because there's a lot of work each week. Go ahead and knock a little bit out of it out every day of the week. So budget your time. Okay, discussion boards. We call those burning questions, as I've already alluded earlier in this video. So when you do burning questions, they are worth 10 points, and you need to be thorough. Don't give me little cookie cutter answers, because you're not going to get very many points, if any, when you do that. I need you to give examples from the video to back up what you're saying about a concept or a theory, or something from the book would be also nice, or from your own life. I'm cool with that. But make sure you target something you saw in a video, because many of these things are based on videos you're asked to watch. Make sure you prove to me, hey, I saw video that you put up there for the burning question. I watched every minute of it, and you know I did, because I just said that this certain thing happened in this video and that backs up the point, that blah-de-da, right? You know the routine. You've been doing this. Okay, so you have a week that goes from Wednesday morning through Tuesday evening. On Wednesday morning, everything opens up for that week at 12:01 a.m. All right? Doesn't mean you have to start working right after midnight, of course. And it closes at 11:59 p.m. on the following Tuesday evening. So keep that in mind. Get acclimated to Wednesday morning through Tuesday evening. That's one week. Then the next week follows the same pattern. Also, if you submit attachments for your BQs, that's fine, but do keep in mind I cannot open any .pages documents. So do not upload those. Here's a way around that if you do work on an Apple/Mac product. What you can do is save your file once you type it on your device as a PDF. And then you upload the PDF. That's fine. That I can open. That I can work with. Not a problem. Okay. Let's see. What else? Anything else here that we need to point out? Yes. This is on page 7. Page 7 gives you the direct phone number for Launchpad's technicians. If you encounter a problem, like there was a thunderstorm, as we're likely to experience in Florida, right? And power goes out, and now things have gotten kind of screwed up on Launchpad because you were right in the middle of a quiz. Call these guys and gals and ask them if they can retrieve your data and reopen it or whatever. They'll tell you what you need to do, right? So if you tell me to fix something in Launchpad, I can't. I'm not that technician. They do not give me authority or power to go in there and fix anything. Okay, let's see. So the most important student responsibility is number 1. So make sure you read that your posts and burning questions are substantive, because those are the things that I focus a lot in terms of grading, and it's also a time where you get to express yourself. Okay, again, I know I'm repeating ad nauseum. Your Launchpad account must be paired with your Canvas account. You do that automatically when you go to Launchpad and press Macmillan Learning. You've magically paired the two accounts right then and there. That allows Launchpad to automatically send your grade for a quiz or a test or a video quiz over to Launchpad, because you don't want me to be doing these hundreds and hundreds of transporting your grades manually to Canvas gradebook. You don't want me to do that. I'm gonna, even if I were a young man, I'd still screw up from time to time, right? Okay, so the total number of points you can earn, and this is the way I base my grading, is on points. There are 15 burning questions altogether. Each one is worth 10 points. That 10 point or whatever number of points I put in each block, that's the maximum number of points you can reach per assignment. So you can get 150 points with the BQs. Online quizzes, there are 15 of those. You get 20 points for each quiz. Each question is worth 1 point for a total of 300. Okay, then the major test, final exam, what do you see here? Then the major test and final exam, don't play with those, because that's the heftiest number of points you can earn totally. Then media psychology assignments, which are those videos that you do on Launchpad. I put 150, but that's not exactly true, because you see there are 42 of those. So if you multiply 5 times 42, you're going to get in excess of 200. So I lied. It's really more than 40 extra points you can get by doing all of these assignments. And you have room to mess up from time to time, right? Okay, I give you some information about how to contact tutoring services if you need that. Usually in this class, when students need tutoring services, they may be going to get some brush up on the APA citation styles. Types of assignments are listed again here, but I've gone over those. And then one of the most important parts of your syllabus is the class assignment schedule. So notice, I give you the 3 chapters, the 3 chapter titles and page numbers that you're dealing with each week, the time frame. So your first week is June the 22nd through June the 28th, right? I remind you of the due date, and then all of the assignments you must complete are listed there in that block. They're also listed in the module, so you don't really have to deal with this schedule unless you just like to have a paper in front of you that you can refer to and use to double check with. Notice that when the major test is due, I'll give you a major test alert there in the left column on these little grids. So you see how they're laid out. All the way through Module 6, I give you the alert that you have a major test and a final exam deadline alert. And that's pretty much it. Okay, so let's go back right quick. Go to home. This is it, I promise. We've talked about burning Chapter 1. You do that. You go and take your Chapter 1 quiz whenever you think you're ready for it. All of these things, note, link directly to Launchpad. They go to the assignment. They don't go to a listing of all the assignments like you saw when I went through Macmillan Learning. These go directly to it. So as soon as that link opens up for you, that window opens up for you, you'll be able to jump right in and take those assessments. The only assessment that is not on Launchpad, keep in mind, will be the burning questions. Okay, so took a little bit longer than 30 minutes, 36, sorry about that. Human attention spans usually go maximum about 30 minutes, usually more like 20. At any rate, I appreciate your patience and hearing me out on all of this, and again, I look forward to working with you during this term.